Coming up next on Not the 9 to 5 podcast.
Just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I know we hear that a lot. But also, literally for me, it was knowing the right people and being in the right place.
But I've got auto pay.
Of course you do. You're all organised.
And the company that we were working for at the time said, Simon Calder and their team need another camera guy. And they said, would you mind doing it? And I was like, yeah, I'm up for it. And they said, by the way, it's in Singapore.
I don't know. I wouldn't go into Chatham High Street if you paid.
You know what I mean?
You don't want to know.
Do I not?
No.
It's not like a job. It is a hobby that I'm paid for.
Welcome to Not the 9 to 5,
The podcast for freelancers
by freelancers.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out,
Join us as we share insights, tips and stories.
to help you thrive in the world of independent work.
I'm Kat.
And I'm Francesca.
We are two freelancers exploring the highs, lows
And everything in between. So grab your coffee, kick back,
and let's dive into another episode of Not the 9 to 5.
Katheryn Siggers.
Francesca Marago.
Hello.
Hello. How are we?
I'm very good.
Are you sure about that?
Do you know what? I've had a stressful time getting here.
You have. Tell our listeners how long it took you to get here.
2.5 hours, guys.
2.5 hours.
I know.
Only from London.
From London
to Kent. That's crazy.
That's a trek. I had to go over the Dartford this time.
Oh, you have to pay the toll.
Yeah.
Oof.
But I've got auto pay because I'm
Of course
organised.
you do. You're all organised.
I know.
I don't have auto pay,
You
but
don't.
that's really...
That just sums you up, though, doesn't it?
That shows our, differences. Anyway, we have got Doug Bolton here with us today. Now, Doug has been holding a camera ever since the age of 11 and has rarely put it down since. He's gone from creating mini movies as a child and a teenager to working as a full-time cameraman, VT editor, and production company owner. Doug does a lot of work in the US state of Colorado for a very high-end real estate and lifestyle company called Cuvée. They own a number of 6-star property. I didn't even know you could have six stars.
Yeah, you can.
6-star properties around the world, and he produces all their video content. Welcome, Doug. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Thanks for coming. So,
Yes.
so tell us a little bit about you. Let's just dive in. How did your journey as a freelancer start?
Yeah, since a very young age, I was always interested in movies and TV and how it's all made. And I remember I was about 11 or 12 when my mum sort of bought a family camcorder. And I started sort of playing around with that, thinking, oh yeah, I really like doing this. This is great fun. And I remember having, being any young boy around 10 or 11, they have a train set. I had a train set all set out on my, like a permanent train set set out on my bedroom floor. And I used to put the camera down and try and make mini movies of the train going around, and which was great fun. And the more I sort of played with the camera and got around with it, I thought, yeah, this is really what I wanted to do. So I was quite fortunate that I was hoping to get into that industry quite early on when I went to school and leaving school. And that was where that started. And then I knew it was an incredibly difficult industry to get into, and competitive. But that's sort of where it all began, and the passion for movies and making films started. So.
Wow. And so how did you then kind of create, like when you was a kid, like how did you create these movies? Because presumably there wasn't like the editing software we have now. So would you just have to like stop and start the camera? Or, like what did you do to create them?
Yeah, it was. I remember, I'd love to know that. I'm sure in my mum's attic somewhere there is the camera still that we used. But in those days, I mean, we're talking, crikey, 1988, 89. And it was an old tape format then, and I used to just find the shot. The train would come by, I would stop recording, and then you would obviously just the next shot you do, you get it down to a T. Because I remember pushing the record button, and it would take a while for the tape to spool up, and then you'd start recording. Yeah. So basically, I got that down to a T where I knew exactly the frame that it would start, so you could judge it just right. And it's funny actually, because my mum still has the videos on VHS now of all the old ones that, and I keep threatening for years to go, I must put them on a digital format to look back on. But it was good. It was a good way of actually getting into editing, because you knew exactly what you wanted, and you could only use that. You couldn't overrun because you'd have to go back and then splice and edit it. And obviously, it was all done in camera. I wasn't particularly. I couldn't edit it outside the camera.
No.
So
Oh my God.
yeah, that's where it sort of started there.
And what kind of, I guess, what genres of things do you like to film, I suppose? Like, did you have a desire for something in particular when you were little that you liked to film or shoot, and has that translated into your life now in the work that you do?
I don't know whether you've had any other camera people on your podcast so far yet. But I can probably say from the other camera guys that I've known and worked with over the years, there are two genres that every cameraman wants to get into. It's either wildlife or travel. And so
why is that?
One, I think wildlife, because you can't fake wildlife. What you film is actually there. There's no fakery and thinking, oh, you've got a puppet bird there. Whatever you're filming, it was always, and it kind of, there's something that it took me a long time to realize. And actually working with Cuvée, a lot of people, they say to you, oh, Doug, wow, your footage looks amazing. How have you done that? Which is, lovely to hear, but it only looks good because the actual subject that you're filming looks good.
Yeah, it's the nature.
Yeah, exactly. You film, a nice sunset down, Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. It's going to look great. You film a shot down Chatham High Street, it's going to look different. No putting, no.
It's no fun.
I don't know.
Chatham High Street,
I wouldn't go into Chatham High Street if you paid me.
You know what I mean?
You don't want to know.
Do I not?
No.
But that it's always going to look better. So luckily, I've always been in a position where the content that I've filmed has always been look good originally. So no matter what you do, it's going to look good at the end point.
Yeah.
So. I'm sorry, your original question. Well, I sort of went off tangent.
In terms of your desires, so did you always want to say shoot wildlife or nature? Did you have something particular that you were interested in filming when you were younger?
Yeah. So I think it would be wildlife and travel, but also I did actually like doing drama. I did a few short movies starting off with, and they were always great fun because you knew it was set to a script, so you could be like, right, you have a lot of time to set something up and think, okay, that's something that is I can easily repeat again because I know they're going to say the same thing again.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of travel films that I've done before. You only get one shot at it, and so you get to work in that environment where you have to work very quickly and think, okay, this is going to happen, so I need to make sure this is all ready, and just sort of work it as you go along. And I think that gives you a lot of training to think. Work quickly but efficiently, and that's how sort of life sort of stuff works.
I was going to say, how creative is it? Because obviously I work in film world and I do like scripted stuff, so obviously I guess people plan the shots of how they want things, but in sort of travel and wildlife, how does that work? How creative is it? Really?
How do you plan everything, I guess, as well?
Because you said it's like a one shot thing, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, so the travel films that I've done have all been with the travel journalist Simon Calder. He writes for the Independent, and he does all his films. And he's whenever there is an incident on the travel film on news where an airline, there's an incident with an airline or something like that, he's the man they call to, and he does all these travel films around the world. And I was lucky enough to one day his usual cameraman that he used was sick. And the company that we were working for at the time said, Simon Calder and their team would need another camera guy. And they said, would you mind doing it? And I was like, yeah. And they said, oh, by the way, it's in Singapore. And I was like, right, I've never been to Singapore before.
Oh my God.
Okay, great. So I went in there, and I remember on the flight over thinking, right, this needs to be done in a way. I didn't want to see what was done previously because I didn't want to think, okay, to copy that. I knew that obviously the structure of how they run a travel film. But I thought I want to do it in a way that is my own way, but in a way that's a little different but effective. So I was chatting to Simon, and he's the loveliest, most professional guy you can ever work with. He is great, but he's so funny. He makes you, as soon as the camera stops, he makes you crack up and laugh, and he's great. And we've it must be 15 years I've been working with him now. We got a real good working relationship. But with regards to your first question, when you because you work together well with someone and you try different, like he'll give you the script, say, okay, I'm going to say this piece about this aircraft coming into land into Hong Kong airport or something. You can be a little bit more creative with the shot because you know he's going to get it right. And you've got a little bit of time. So you just try and work out, you can be really creative with stuff as long as you know the end product's going to work. You know, if you've got a one shot wonder at it, there's only one take you're going to get, then you may be a little bit more sort of sensible with it. But I've always had the thing, no, I'll try and do it a little bit differently, but hopefully it'll look good. So usually 9 times out of 10 it works.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you end up having big crews on these kinds of jobs, or are they they're smaller, close-knit teams?
Well, we used to. I said when we started the travel films, there was about 5 or 6 of us, and now there is 2 or 3 of us. But that's because the cameras have got a lot smaller, they can do a lot more things. The technology of microphones, as I'm sure you know, is so much more better than they used to be 10 years ago. And so, and I joke with a lot of my sound guy friends who have saying, oh yeah, you need a proper soundy on that. And I'm like, yeah, not for this job, I don't, because the camera does so much stuff. You set the level and it's really, the cameras are much more forgiving now. But even today, you look at the latest iPhone. I mean, some of the stuff that I've been here in when I've been out and I think, I've seen a great shot and I don't have the camera with me, I'll do it on the iPhone. And in the edit, you can't really notice the difference. And it's amazing what you can get on your iPhone now. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. That is, they have developed so much, haven't they? And especially the latest.
Scary. Yeah. So gone are the days where you get it all wrong and you have to rely on all manual cameras. Now it does it all for you.
That camera that you had to wind it back.
Those disposable ones.
Oh yeah.
I miss those. I miss those.
Yeah, they're like trendy. Yeah. They're like retro, they call it, don't they?
God, yes. So I want to take it back a little bit to kind of how you really got into the industry. Like, what was your first job as a cameraman or a freelancer?
Okay, so I went to school. I didn't do particularly. I was never academic at school. I think out of all my GCSEs, I got 1 of C and above, which was science, because I always liked science, maths, and I was probably quite. I wouldn't say cocky, but I was because I went in there knowing what I wanted to do. I remember my maths teacher coming up to me. And I was listening to a few of your podcasts before, and there was one other person who said it, and I can't remember who that was, but they were saying about algebra. And I was like, algebra and equations just could not go into my head. I just could not get them. And I remember my maths teacher coming up to me and saying, you're going to need algebra in you. And I said, no, I won't. I said, I won't. I said, because I know what I want to do. And that was probably the way that I was to him was probably not the right way, but he was so insistent saying, you must learn algebra. I'm like, yeah. No, and you need to know these. And even my times table, I still count on my fingers. Count and adding.
Terrible. I know.
And it's because it's so easy now to get your phone and to add that up on your calculator. Isn't it?
So, it's just easier, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I keep going off on tangents. So how I studied. So I left school, and I went to college, and I knew that it was sort of going to the sort of computer era, and I did I left school, did a year's computer course just to get the basics of how computers worked. But there was a part of me in there thinking I really wanted to get into the media industry. And so I actually, after the computer course, I started another 2-year computer course. But I was in there thinking, this isn't for me. I needed to go into media. And just so happened that across the hall was the media class. So I was going in there looking and thinking, and I spoke to the teacher, and he said, yeah, come in, it's not too late to change. You're only a couple of weeks into the term. So I joined that. And anyway, I'm making this a really long story, and I'm sorry, but I joined this media course and actually didn't learn that much of it. And so at the same time, I knew someone who worked for the BBC, a very, very friend of a friend of a friend. I wouldn't say he was a close friend, but I joined that. So I emailed him and said, in fact, it wasn't even email at that time. It was telephoning from my mum's house. I remember thinking, Dave, is there any chance, are you still in the industry? Have you got any, could I come and do some work experience? I knew he was a top editor at the BBC, the outside broadcast. And so I rang him, and he said, hi Doug, nice to hear from you. Come along and come for some work experience. So I went there, and we went and did the London Marathon with him. So he was doing, I didn't run it obviously, but the BBC were there with the outside broadcast, and I was in there just sitting at the back, sort of complete in awe of all the screens and everything that was going on, thinking, wow. And everything, I was like, yep. I thought, yeah, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is the industry I want to be in. And so I sort of was enthusiastic for those 2 weeks. And he said, look, Doug, I own my own production company, a small little one in Maidstone. Do you want to come along and just, help out for a few days a week? And of course, without even finishing his sentence, I was like, yep, I'll come along. So I started, and I ended up staying and working with him for about 5 years, full time.
Wow.
And we did some great stuff. But he was a nice guy, but he absolutely drill it into you. You need to learn this. This is what you need to do. And he was quite, I wouldn't say fierce, but he was the sharper end of trying to teach you stuff. And which, I look back on now thinking, it was good to learn that sort of thing in that way, even though that's not how I think you get the best out of people. He was the sort of person that would drill it into you until you did get it.
Yeah.
So
it's great that you were given that opportunity anyway with someone like that, because nowadays it's so hard to find those, I guess, mentors in life that help you through your career and help you grow. So that's great that you had that early on.
And did you learn sort of everything, or did you stick to one particular part of the training?
Well, I went to him originally, said, I want to be a cameraman, and he's like, yeah, he said, okay. He said, lots of people say they want to be a cameraman. He said, if you want to be a cameraman, I need to train you as an editor first. He said, because if you're an editor, you'll then know how to hold the shots for longer, what an editor needs to film.
Makes sense.
So I was like, okay, fine. So he wouldn't even let me touch a camera professionally or like that for 2 years. He said, no, you need to learn how to. And I literally, I look back on how I got into this career, and I was just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I know we hear that a lot. But also, literally for me, it was knowing the right people and being in the right place. Yeah. Because I knew I just got into it just as they were moving from tape editing to non-linear computer editing. And so I started just at that. And that's where that 1 year's computer course came in, because I was I know about that and that. And I started as an editor, and then trained me as a cameraman. And we went and did some stuff, BBC, and there are lots of corporate stuff.
That's amazing.
But it was a good way of learning the basics and how the cameras worked, everything like that, because he was an engineer, so he sort of said from the ground up. And and that was that part.
Did you enjoy the editing side of it, like when it got thrown at you, or did you not?
It was interesting because I wasn't aware how just the smallest little things in edit can make the film so much better.
Yeah.
And so that was a real eye opener. And almost to the point where at the end of the 2 years, I think it was around 2 years that he said all that, I almost didn't want to stop the editing. And I didn't actually. I said, I want to continue this on, but still, pick up a camera and start doing it myself. So that's where that started. So.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then following on from that, where did you go next? And did you find it, did you have a struggle to get work next after that job, or what happened?
I left he was because I thought I'd got to a certain level where I thought, right, I'm quite happy with the way, I could do my job quite fluently without anything when I over your shoulder saying do this and do that. So I was at that stage, but he kept still pushing me, and it got to a point where I thought I haven't got the quality of life I should have and enjoy it as much as I should do. So I left there, and we all left on good terms. I said, thanks so much. It's time for me to fly to the next nest and see whatever I could do. And I did at that point. Well, how old was I then? I must have been 21, 22 at the time. And I made the step of moving to do it on my own. And I thought, right, I'm going to go and do this freelance on my own for a first, see how it goes, and it was all going to be great. And I was just too young and naive at the time. I was thinking that, and I remember did all the wrong things. I took out a loan for a car, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be great. And then I suddenly thought, yeah, no, I shouldn't have done that. Even though it was lovely, and there was that freedom, And I hear all your previous podcast people who are all lovely saying, the freedom you get from freelancing is that. And it was great until I suddenly thought, I need to actually earn some money, as in bring some work in.
Yeah.
So when I was working with this guy called Dave before, who was the trainer of me, I met another guy who I used to do a lot of editing with, who was based in Brighton. And when I left Dave and set up on my own, this guy said, actually, I'll come and do some editing with you. We work quite well together. And then over that sort of year that I was working on my own and sort of struggling a bit, because I just thought, this isn't all the stuff that I didn't even think that I needed to do, like invoicing and all that sort of stuff. It became too much. And I was working with this guy called Lorenzo, really, really nice guy. And we got on like a house of fire. And he was the complete opposite of Dave, super relaxed. Yeah, he could sell snow to Eskimos. He was that sort of guy where he was brilliant. And we got on really well. And he said, Doug, look, he said, I can see you're sort of struggling. He said, let's set up another company together, and where you do what you do best. He said, because that's all you need to do. He said, let me worry about all the other bits that you're not very good at. And so that's where it really gelled. So we set up, I sort of gave up my freelance bit of that first year and we started a company called Maverick Motion Pictures based in Brighton. And it was an instant relief, weight off my shoulders, because it was something I could go back to doing exactly what I liked and not have the stresses of getting the work in,
admin,
invoicing, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I
must be your podcast person that talks most. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. That's why you're here. But I get that. I totally get that. You're much more admin oriented than I am. And I really struggle. I'm like, just let me do the thing. I just want to do the thing that I'm good at. I don't want to have to invoice. I don't want to have to, find more work. I just want it now. I just want it to come to me. And I don't want to have to worry about any of that other stuff. But I suppose it is a necessary evil when you're working on your own. And it's just good that you had that support from Lorenzo so that you could go and do what it was you were good at and what you enjoyed. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think having worked with someone that's quite demanding, and I'm going to use that word fierce, but in that way that doesn't let you relax at all.
Yeah.
To go into someone that is completely relaxed, so let's go and get a coffee. It was a complete lifestyle change professionally. Mm-hmm. But it was so good. I think it's a bit like when you go through money struggles, and then you go, when you struggle for money, I think you have to go through that phase to learn that when you do get money, you appreciate it so much more.
Yeah,
definitely.
And it's a bit like the working environment. You have to go through that. I don't like this work environment. You have to go through that in order to get to the point where you think, actually, I really like this, what I'm doing now, because it's so much easier. You just relax more.
Yeah.
So that's what I found with Lorenzo. We had a great time, and it was easy. It was good.
I think it would make me quite stressed if I'm with someone who's too relaxed, because then I feel like we've got to pick up the pace. We've got to go. Don't you think?
I feel like you do need to relax a little bit, Francesca.
Maybe.
Just a teeny
I'm just
bit.
it's just all systems go kind of. I'm very type A personality.
Yeah,
that's just 100%. Me. And I kind of blame the industry.
I think we balance each other out nicely, though.
Yeah, I would say.
I'm not super relaxed. No. I get the work done, and I want it done on time, and all of that. But I'm definitely more of that person that goes, "Shall we go for a coffee?" Francesca ever would be.
Should we close the laptop?
Should we close the laptop for the day?
And I'm
Thank you.
No.
You're like, no. I've got this one more email to do, and then it's another email, and then it's another email, and then it's a schedule, and then it's it
becomes addictive.
Yep.
Because you enjoy your work.
Yeah, not to say you don't enjoy it, but you also need that break.
Yeah,
you need that break.
It's true.
Anyway,
we digress.
Anyway, we do. We all digress. So what's then the best part of the job for you, Doug?
I say this to a lot. Whenever people say to you, "What do you do?" or usually people say to me now, they say, "Oh, what part of the world are you in?" Because I've been lucky enough to have travelled the world and done a lot of stuff like that. So I think the best part of the job is actually, it's not like a job. It is a hobby that I'm paid for. Because you are. One, I'm doing the job that I always love doing, and you get the freedom to say, this is how I want to do it, or this is how I think it should be done. Mm-hmm. And then it's getting the the appreciation back from someone to say, actually, this guy knows what he's talking about, or, let's give him a go. And when it works, it's like, yeah, great. Okay. And they get that trust in you. And I think that's what I enjoy is the freedom to be your own creative stuff, and meet the people that are the other end of that. So they can say, oh, wow, that's really good. Thank you very much. Again, meeting people around the world is sort of two answers in one, but I'm saying, yeah, you get to be creative, but also you meet the different types of people in the industry. So
I suppose, has your work changed has it changed quite a lot because you've traveled to different places? And I guess people do things differently in different countries in terms of filming and all of that kind of stuff. Like, has that impacted you in any way? Has that allowed you to sort of think differently in the way that you work?
Yeah, I think so. I think probably because the working on the travel films is very, very fast paced. You go to these lovely locations, you're in there for half an hour doing a nice shot on the beach, and then you're off straight away again. So you don't get time to really enjoy that. So it's a lot of fast moving. So when you meet other people and turn, you say to them, or you see someone working, you're like, yeah, they're in there, and oh yeah, we'll need a day to film on the beach. And I'm like, what? You can do that in 10 minutes if you need to. But I think that comes back from an editing back as well. You're sort of, as you're filming it, you're editing it in your brain, thinking, I need that shot, that shot, job done, out of here.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry, I've forgotten your question again. I keep getting off a tangent.
Have you had to change,
adapt
due to different, like working in different countries?
No, I think that's an important trait, is not to change the way that you work, but you change obviously whatever environment you're in, you adapt to that environment, but the way that you do your job still has to be the same, because you have that certain style that's to you. And I think that's where people look at you and say, oh, you didn't do that, Doug. Oh, that's your shot, Doug. And that's really nice, but it's also, I guess, a sort of almost like a personal brand where they look at you and say, oh, that's Doug's done that.
Yeah, they know your work.
And I think you know whether you're filming in the top of I remember we were doing a shoot in a volcano in the top of in this 4-hour hike to the Philippines, and it was crazy. And that's always a question, and I'll throw the same question back at you guys. I always say to people, whoever I meet, I say, where have you been in the world where you felt most away from home? And I ask that to people. And it's amazing. They're like, they think about it. And some people say, oh, when I'm walking down the back alley of my town centre, they feel really like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I think when professionally where I've been, that was the one time I was up here thinking, if something happens now, we are literally in the middle of nowhere, and it seems like absolutely miles away. And that's where I felt most isolated from home then.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So let me throw that question at you guys.
I wouldn't even know how to answer that. I don't think I've done anything adventurous enough for that. I'm not sure.
No.
What do you?
I don't think you need to have. You don't even need to have travelled. I think you could have just done it. Wherever you most felt.
What about you? I don't know. Give me a minute.
I'll give you a minute. I was thinking. What was I thinking? Where was I? I went to summer camp in Massachusetts in a town called Otis, and it's like the middle of nowhere, country roads, evergreen trees, and then these like camping lodges. And I was there with the kids, like being like a sort of drama teacher, and I was there for 3 months. And it was so quiet because it was overlooking the lake. It was really beautiful, but it was so different to what I was used to. And again, a different place, different country, different food, different people. And I did feel the most away because it was so secluded, and you couldn't, I don't want to say like you were trapped, but it was more like you couldn't just venture off and go somewhere. You had to stay within that camp. Yeah. So I'd say that made me feel the most away from home. I mean, I really enjoyed it, but I did feel like, wow, like we didn't even use our phones, we were just so secluded, and it was quite nice because you get so addicted to the devices.
You do.
And I was like, I actually can think. I can actually think.
That's it.
Yep.
And be in the space that I am. So did that give you enough time?
Sometimes when you're cut off and remote and your phones don't work, it is really nice to think, actually,
you forget.
And it was funny the other day, and I'm sorry, I will let you answer, Kat, your question. The other day I was in I forget where I was in a coffee shop somewhere, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to sit in this coffee shop and not even touch my phone. It's going to stay in my pocket, and I'm just going to people watch. And it's amazing how much you can just, without having your device with you, just think, actually, I'm just going to take it in where I am. I'm still trying to think where that was.
Yeah.
Clearly very impactful for you, Doug.
Clearly.
I know, it was just, but it wasn't anything like, I was looking over Mount Fuji or anything like that. It was somewhere in a city like, it may have even been London actually, but it was just nice to think, this is what life would have been like without our phones,
Yeah, it was a simpler time, I think, when we weren't so connected.
Yeah.
Everyone's on their iPhones. Like that's what I immediately go to now. If I was waiting for you in a coffee shop, for example, if we ever met for coffee, Francesca, if we ever did that, I would immediately, if you weren't there, I'd pick up my phone. I wouldn't go, I'm just going to sit here and have a little look. And I suppose as actors, we should really people watch more. And I used to people watch all the time before the phone, before the phone really was so connected everywhere, Wi-Fi everywhere.
Yeah. It's true. I think people feel like they can't be alone with themselves. It's like this pressure that you have to always be occupied with this device. Like it brings you some sort of, I don't know. Yeah.
I've tried to go in the car at the moment and just not have music on, because I normally have music on, or I normally have a podcast or an audiobook or something, but I've just tried to be silent. I've had so many great thoughts.
Oh, that's good.
I've had so many ideas, and I think you miss that when you're on the when you're listening to something all the time. You don't have that space to just think.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I've got an answer for you, Doug.
Okay.
So it was when, again, I was in America. I went to Cal State Fullerton for 6 months to study acting. And we took a road trip to a national park called Joshua Tree. And it was just completely, again, beautiful. But there was no signal. There was no, even and it got dark because we camped there. And it got dark.
Wow, it got dark.
Believe?
That's crazy.
Shut up. And I suppose because it was so silent, there was no road noise, there was no lights, no external lights from anywhere.
That's so
it
true.
just felt like, oh my God, I could see all the stars. And you're right. I guess I felt like so far removed from my home in that moment. Yeah, I think so. I think that was my answer for you. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. Sometimes you can feel, oh, God, I need to get back home, or I feel really isolated. And sometimes you think, actually, this is a good thing. I'm away from everybody.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I was definitely glad to get back on a normal road with people around. It did feel a little bit too secluded sometimes.
Yeah.
So tell us have you ever encountered any struggles as a freelancer in your career? Has there been any tough times for you?
I mean, again, I think that was that first year of freelancing. So I've done my first year, and then I did 3 or 4 years with CNI, which is another company I set up later on. But that first year of me thinking I could do it all, I think I was a bit overconfident, thinking, I can do all this. How hard can it be, so to speak? Pinching that line from Jeremy Clarkson. But it was one of those ones where I looking back now, you needed to have done that in order to think, okay, I was a bit too naive then. I needed to try and do stuff, and but struggles wise, I was fortunate where my second part of freelancing, which is when I set up CNI Television after Maverick. So obviously I worked at Maverick for 10-15 years, and then I left there and said, actually, no, I can do this on my own again. I'm a bit more adult like and grown up now. So I set up CNI, and I don't just a quick background on CNI. Whenever I go around, people know me as Doug Coke No Ice, because that was my drink. I'd have a Coke with no ice in it.
I love that.
And I thought, I'm going to call it CNI Television.
Normal Coke.
What's that?
Normal Coke.
Normal Coke with no ice.
Love that.
But people used to think, is that because you can't drink ice because you're in a foreign country and you can't drink ice because of the water? I said, no, Coke. Someone who likes Coke, if you have ice in it, it just dilutes it. So I just thought, no ice, please. And everyone who works with me says, "Oh yeah, Coke, no ice." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's it." So
You
it was a good way of.
made a little catchphrase for yourself so people would remember you.
I love that.
People always remember CNI, Coke, no ice,
Nice.
television. So that was it. So
Brilliant.
yeah. But going when you're saying with struggles, no, I was fortunate that I had a. I was originally married and we split up, and then I kept the marital home and then rented it out. So I had an income coming in. So at the very, which is obviously I know most freelancers don't have that opportunity to do that, have an income to fall back on. So I could have that. So, and I never wanted to rely on that. And I never said that, oh, it'll be fine, I'll rely on that this month. But it was always a nice in the back of my mind, a safety net to think if for some reason I don't get any work in, I can rely on that. But fortunately, I never had to. And whenever the work came in, I was always thinking, right, so if I don't get any work from now, I'll be able to survive until then, until I need to get more work in.
Yeah.
So say it was sort of March, I think, right, okay, I've got enough to keep me through until July, but fortunately, work would come in. And it was fascinating. I was listening to your podcast the other day, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the lady that came on, but you were talking about, where was it that if you're sitting in your office, when no work will come in, if you're out on a job, you'll get 2 jobs come in when you're on work, when you're working. It's weird, isn't it? How
you always say get a holiday, you'll
Yeah.
get a job. It's so true.
Book a holiday and you'll get a job 100%.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
We should just book more.
Or even when you're on another job.
Let's do it. I know it's always
Yeah,
like
It's
that.
always it's that kind
Every
of
time. I guess
it's the energy you give out,
yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
the relaxedness,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like
That
sort of
know
owning
work's
it.
coming, so work comes to you.
Yeah.
And when
when you're
you've
not
got
chasing
no
it,
work and you're twiddling your thumbs, it's not coming.
Yeah.
It's dead.
It's so
Yeah.
true.
So what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone thinking about going into freelancing?
I think for me, being a people person is the most important thing I found in throughout my career. I think what people struggle with and they worry about a lot is, oh, am I going to do this right? Am I going to do this right? And like that. And to me, and to a lot of people that I've met and worked with, the actual work itself is the easy bit. You don't even worry about that. When you turn up to a job or you turn up to acting, you don't worry about, oh my God, I can't do this, because you can. You that's what you do for a living. When you turn up to a shoot, you don't think, oh, I'm really worried about this shoot. I don't even think about that until you're on the scene. You think, okay, there's the shot there, there's the shot there, job done. What I think a piece of advice I would give is, don't worry about and get stressed about the actual work itself. You want to make sure that you are the right person for the job, as in they like you, because people buy people. That's what I would say. And there's never a truer word said. Is that I remember one time that one of my clients, it was a really hot day one summer, and they were up in Rochester actually, up there where you guys are now, and it was a really hot day, and I didn't have any work with them, but I hadn't seen them for a while, so I just rang and said, oh, I'm going to pop up and see you guys. I'll come up for a cup of tea, and I just stopped in at the Sainsbury's at the top of Bluebell Hill there, I remember, and bought a load of chalk ices for them and gave them the chalk ices. I said, there you go, this is just, thanks for the work. I didn't go there for it, but I just said, thanks for the work, really nice. And I stayed there all afternoon just saying, no, it's good. I really appreciate this. And we're having a good laugh. And you build up that sort of friendship and sort of
repertoire.
So they don't treat you like a work person. They're like, oh yeah, we'll just call Doug. Yeah. And it was that. It's that being friendship. You get so much more out of people if you like that person.
Yeah.
Than you do, if you don't. So
you at the end of the day.
Yeah. Definitely. That's a great piece of advice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Be a people person, I think. Is the thing.
Yeah.
And one other thing I would say, if it's any other career listening, a good tripod. Out of all the equipment I've had, a good tripod is the best thing you can have.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So before we finish up, we'd love to do a little game of Would You Rather with you. Would you rather live on a peaceful tropical island or a big bustling city?
Ooh, I would say tropical island.
Would you rather have to
Yeah.
start a new job every year until you retire, or have only one job for your entire career?
Different job every year. Yeah.
Would you rather spend your money traveling the world but have few personal possessions, or have a really amazing house but never leave your hometown?
These are good questions. I would say the first one. Yeah, travel the world.
Travel the world. Would you rather have to wear all black every day for the rest of your life, or have to mix every colour of the rainbow into your outfit every day?
Wow. Who thinks of these questions? That's great.
Siggers over here.
Okay, I would probably go the multicolour one because it's bright and happy, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Probably not black, no.
Would you rather be able to talk with animals or speak every language?
Oh, animals for sure. Yeah, I'd love to do that. That'd be good.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Dr. Dolittle. Would you rather always be 1 hour late or 1 hour early to everything?
So would I rather be?
Yeah, would you rather be 1 hour late or 1 hour early to everything?
It's funny. That's actually a thing. Personally, I'm always known as being late, but I never tried to be late on a job.
Yeah.
So I'd always much prefer to be, if it's working, I'd rather be an hour early.
Yeah.
But you can ask any of my friends, they're always like, yeah, Doug's always late.
Would you rather be covered neck to toe in tattoos or have one big face tattoo?
Wow. The neck to toe tattoos, I think.
Yeah.
Would you rather have to speak in rhyme for the rest of your life or speak in riddles for the rest of your life?
Probably I would want to speak in rhyme for the rest of my life. I think.
Would you rather have more time or more money?
Wow. More time.
And would you rather be a freelancer or PAYE?
Well, I'm PAYE now, but I did like the freedom of the freelancing world as well. Mm-hmm. So so probably I haven't actually answered that one, have I? Okay, no, I'd probably say as freelance, I think. Yeah.
And where can we follow you on your journey? Like, where can our audience find you on socials?
Well, you can see CNI Television on Instagram. You can see Cuvée, the company I work for at the moment. That's CUVE.com, and you can see all the videos on their site there. I do that will make you very envious of the parts of the world because some of the places are amazing.
Be invited to the places that
we've got to.
We're ready and waiting.
I'm ready for
a pack.
6-star resort. I'm ready.
Let's go.
Just say.
Yeah, they have their own private island in the Caribbean, which is pretty awesome.
Wow, that's incredible.
I love that.
Oh my god. Wonderful. All right. Well, we'll put that all in the show notes for people to find you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Doug. It's been a pleasure.
No, it's lovely. Thank you for having me on. It's been great.
Thanks for listening to
Not the 9 to 5 podcast.
If you like this episode, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel, where we release weekly podcasts every Monday.
Comment below to let us know who you'd like to see next on our podcast.
Give this video a thumbs up and maybe share it with a freelance friend or two.
Until next week, everyone.
Keep freelancing.